Welcome, everybody. We're so excited to have you all here today for the first of our pre-conference webinars. Today, we are going to be previewing 3 of our 4 pre-conference conferences with 3 of the speakers that we have here to give you a little insight about what will be happening when you join us all at Service World Expo in Las Vegas. I'm going to do a little high-level introduction to everyone, and then I'll get into your bios as each of you as we get to your the time for your questions and answers and such. So we're going to start with, and I'm sorry, Eric, I was going to ask, make sure I say your name properly. Eric Thurwanger, is that correct?
Thurwanger, yeah. Okay, congratulations.
Good.
That's huge.
Thank you. Well, I did search you on social media and listen for other people to introduce you before I got here this morning.
That's awesome. That's great.
So we have Eric Thurwanger, and he will be doing Leading Through Chaos. It's time to navigate through challenging circumstances. We have a little of that going on, don't we?
Yes.
Next up, we will have Maureen Zapala, and her workshop title is going to be Pushing Your Envelope, How to Overcome the Self-Doubt of Imposter Syndrome Once and For All.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
And last but not least, we're going to have Kim and Buford Martin. And I like the Vegas theme of your title. Bet on your numbers. Stack the odds for profit and growth.
Wonderful.
And so, right? Did I get all that? I sure did. So let's get into the introductions. I'll read your bios I'm going to start with you, Eric, because I have you first. And it's quite a nice bio we have. Leading through chaos. It's time to navigate through the challenging circumstances. Leaders are needing the most during the most trying times. Discover your greater purpose as a leader and unlock your potential. Inspiring your team to set and accomplish important goals during challenging circumstances. They gave me the key takeaways, but I'm going to let you go ahead and tell us what your key takeaways are and a little insight. But don't give away too much. You want to leave the mystery and make them all excited to come see you.
Well, I think that, for me, this presentation was actually created right after the pandemic was declared, when people were wondering, how do we lead people right now, especially when some of us went virtual. And so I was only going to run this for about 2 weeks till everything went away. And it's still my #1 most requested topic, because at the end of the day, when I ask businesses, their leaders, their managers, the directors, what's your greatest asset? They always say people. People are our greatest asset. And yet most of them have never been developed to help guide them and coach them and mentor them. So some of the biggest takeaways are, how do we fall in love with leading? Not the conceptual side of it, but the conceptual side. What steps can we take to improve communication? How do we increase engagement? How do we empower people? And how do we really build teams that are cohesive, work together and look after each other? So we really get into the basics of leadership with some how-tos and some great takeaways for everybody.
Great. I did cut short of actually reading your entire bio, so let me give them a little more information. Eric is the founder of the Think Great, and draws from his experience as a U.S. Marine, executive business leader, sales professional, and entrepreneur to help organizations achieve new levels of success. He uniquely combines leadership development, team building, sales training, and goal setting into strategies, techniques that empower team members and leaders to exceed expectations. As a speaker and coach, Eric's training sessions provide the tools needed to achieve greater results with the lasting message of inspiration. He also empowers audiences as he describes his life-changing experience of being his wife's caregiver during her 4 bouts of cancer. Eric's interactive and entertaining style engages his audiences as he empowers them to open new possibilities in their personal and professional lives. Well, you've been through quite a lot, have you not?
We've had some chaos. Yes. We've had personal and professional chaos. Yes.
I think, I completely understand that. Next up, we have Maureen Zapala. Her workshop title is Pushing Your Envelope, How to Overcome Self-Doubt of Imposter Syndrome Once and For All. I think imposter syndrome is a lot for all of us. Let me read your highlight just a bit here, Maureen. You're talented, accomplished, and successful. People think you have it all together, yet you still think to yourself, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. And everyone is about to figure that out. They're on to me. You feel like a fraud, an imposter. Your discount success, often explaining it away due to luck or accident or perhaps an administrative error. You live in near constant state of being discovered as an incompetent or stupid. This drives you to work harder, accomplish more, strive for more goals. But the fear of being discovered never leaves you. You suffer from the imposter syndrome or the imposter phenomenon. It's exhausting, it's draining, and it's killing your enthusiasm. So Del, I want to go ahead and let you give the takeaways that you're going to have, that you have for our audiences.
Sure. Thank you for reading all that. Gosh, it makes me sound bigger than life. Or at least it makes the problem sound bigger than life, which is a good thing because it's not. Imposter syndrome, it's that chronic self-doubt where you just don't feel qualified. You feel like you're incompetent and going to be discovered as a fraud. I felt it for years. I'm a former NASA rocket scientist. And every day I'd walk into my job at NASA and think, oh my gosh, did they really hire me? Did they even look at my college transcript? So I understand what that feels like. The thing is, it's an irrational conclusion despite looking at the hard data that says you're qualified. So in my session at Service World, and even today we'll do a little bit of discussion about it, you'll learn three things. You'll learn what imposter syndrome is. You will rethink the thoughts that got you there because it is a thought process issue. It's not a confidence issue. It's a thinking issue. And then I'll give you some strategies to revise how you move forward through it. We don't ever completely eliminate it, but you can alleviate it. And the strategies will help do that. So that's what we're going to do.
Awesome. Well, speaking of credentials, let me give you a little bit of your bio. I know you know your bio, but let me give everybody else your bio. Maureen Zappala is an award-winning speaker, author, and founder of High Altitude Strategies. Shows successful high performers how to overcome the hidden self-doubt of imposter syndrome. A native in New York City, she has a BS in mechanical engineering from the University of Notre Dame, and she spent more than 13 years at NASA's Lewis Research Center in Cleveland, now the Glenn Research Center, conducting aircraft engine research. Yes, she's a rocket scientist. She became the youngest and first female manager of NASA's Propulsion Systems Laboratory, a jet engine test facility. Despite the stellar credentials and impressive accomplishments at NASA, the annoying imposter syndrome was her constant companion, causing her to think, I'm not as smart as everyone thinks I am, and they're going to figure it out. So, great. We're looking forward to hearing from you. I actually had the pleasure of seeing you at the Women of HVACR event, and it's amazing. I'm on a personal self-growth journey, and that imposter syndrome definitely is a true thing. So next up, we have Kim and Martin Buford, and they're going to be talking about my favorite thing, numbers. But Kim and Buford are some coaches from here. They have their own business and they have sold it, and we are lucky enough to have them as premier coaches here at Service World Expo. So their topic, like I said, is, I want to give you the overview, opening intro. It's now time to talk dollars and cents. With a splash of Vegas flair, Kim and Buford Martin are turning their financials into jackpots. With over 35 years of combined trade experiences, they know the real power is in their numbers. They're here to show you how to bet smart and win big. Can you guys highlight your top takeaways that you're going to be delivering in Vegas and how to make us win big?
Sure. I think, thank you for having us on here, talk about imposter syndrome. I'm looking at these bios of everybody else on here, so I'm just thankful to be a part of this organization and get to learn more from the others too. What we'll do is kind of have 5 sessions, little breakout sessions for the 4 hours, and we'll kind of start with just basics on financial statements, on what they are and why they're important, make sure that we go over some in knowing how to study accuracy, make sure that they're correct. Then we're going to jump into what are you going to do with those numbers. We'll have some key metrics. I know everybody always says, yeah, but where am I supposed to be? And we want to let them know these are our good guidelines for everybody to know how to measure their company. And then we'll go into sections on how to make those improvements, where to identify them, how to make them. We'll go through some pitfalls that businesses have from the beginning and in growth stage. When you get to certain levels, you have different kinds of pitfalls. And then we'll help people kind of come up with some details on reviewing the financial statements and do job costing, possibly some budgeting ideas, forecasting. And most importantly, I want to give them some good takeaways, action plan that they can take home and put in place today. So something that's going to directly impact their company.
Awesome. Let me go ahead and read your bios and give them some little of your credentials, which are impressive in themselves, Miss Kim. With over 35 years of combined experience in the trade industry, Buford and Kim Martin have become influential figures in the HVAC sector. Kim, leveraging her accounting degree, began her career as a bookkeeper with an HVAC plumbing wholesale company, eventually advancing to the position of controller. Buford, on the other hand, entered the HVAC world at just 19, earning his HVAC certificate and gaining valuable field experience in the area's largest HVAC company before transitioning into becoming the HVAC manager in the wholesale domain. So welcome, everybody. Let's get into some of the questions and some more of the, I'm going to do this just in honor of Tom. He always says the meat of that you guys will be delivering. Let's start with you, Eric, and some of the talking points are the questions. I have some questions here, and I'm not exactly sure if they're the same ones you were sent, but I'm sure you could probably work through them. So one of the first questions I have is, when did your greater purpose as a leader become clear?
That is a phenomenal question. I think that I'm a big believer that we should be purpose-driven as leaders. And I think that, mine really came when I served in the Marine Corps. And I was being developed as a leader before I had any direct reports. And so what they were really sharing with us is how to create that team cohesion, how to look at for the person to the left and to the right of you, and how to fill us with that purpose. I think most leaders want to have a greater purpose that drives them. They don't want to manage people. They want to be able to lead them, coach them, guide them. And so when we're looking out for the welfare of our people, of our troops, if you will, looking out for the person to our left and right, it gives us greater purpose. And so for me, there was an awakening when I was in boot camp that I wasn't just there being trained to become a Marine. I was being developed to think and act like a leader. And that development of being a leader is what positions our military to hit mission. In the business sector, we usually have a mission statement, and the development of our leadership skills, whether we have direct reports or not, is directly linked into us hitting mission on a daily basis. So for me, it was really having that awakening that I am a leader even without direct reports. I can make an impact as a leader. I can think like a leader. I can act like a leader. I don't have to have people reporting into me to be in that mindset. And that's what really got me, as I was up in the control tower as an air traffic controller at 18 years old. So I was trained as an air traffic controller, but I was developed to think and act like a leader. And that's what truly empowered me to be up there speaking with aircraft every day.
I'm John Maxwell certified, so you talk directly to that. That 5 levels of leadership when you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Maureen, let's have a question for you. What does imposter syndrome really feel like in the moment? Which can lead right into that leadership. Sometimes you get into that leadership position and you're like, I have all this going on, and am I strong enough to be that person? So you guys are feeding right into each other.
In many ways. I mean, even as you were talking, Eric, I had so many thoughts. I'm like, oh, yes. Because when you talk about, this is my words, translating what you said, creating a culture where people they're part of a bigger picture.
Right.
And that just goes to our human condition. Now, at our core, we want to matter. We want to both fit in and stand out, because that's always creates attention. And imposter syndrome attacks both of them, because you think to yourself, I don't fit in. I'm not smart enough, educated enough, wealthy enough, I'm great enough. But you also are afraid to stand out, because you think, what if I'm wrong? What if they think my idea is stupid? What if I have all the pressure now on the world, on my shoulders? So it hits in weird places at weird times. And unless you actually take disciplined, focused, intentional, thought process changing steps, you're just going to float away with it like a buoy on the ocean. You're just going to kind of bob around. I think it was I can't remember who said it. Would you rather be a wandering generality or a meaningful specific? And we want to be the meaningful specific. We want to take control of our thought processes, have a goal in mind, hear those voices of self-doubt, acknowledge them, don't live there. Just say, there it is, this is how I'm going to counter it. So in the moment, you do feel like a fraud, but the more tools in your toolbox, the less impact it has and the shorter lifespan it has. And that's what I'm hoping to show people in the audience, both today and back at the expo coming up this fall.
Well, that leads us to you, Kim and Buford, being a leader, being an imposter, and having the tools. Knowing your numbers is one of the biggest tools, and it's one of the hardest tools to utilize. So, why are so many people, Kim and Buford, afraid to look at their numbers, and how can they get past that, and how can they utilize that as a tool?
Well, I can answer that because I didn't know any of my numbers. And so I didn't look at them. And we guessed a lot because I was intimidated by the financials personally. And until I learned them and looked at them, we made terrible decisions because it was all about gut. With the financials, I was able to, once I learned them, I was able to pick things out to help make business decisions in a timely manner. And we didn't make terrible decisions anymore, like pay plans or bonuses or, are we charging enough? Are we not charging enough? That's where you get all that information, is digging into your financials. So,
or buying a truck just because you have money in the bank.
Yeah. Or wondering why, hey, the P&L says I made this much money, but I don't have it. Where's it at? So knowing all the financial statements that you should look at is very important, because I do get questions about that. And then with Kim, because she's a smart one, I just hang out. I'm eye candy.
She got the smarts and the pretties?
Yeah. So, I hear that question a lot. And so understanding what all your financial statements are telling you will help you run a much more successful, and it makes your business easier to make decisions and makes it funner to run, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So while you're looking at it, tell us what's one KPI every contractor should be tracking and often isn't.
Labor percentages.
Yeah, I agree.
It's their biggest variable, and hardly anybody tracks, is what we see a lot.
So give us a little more information on what that is, in case there's some people out listening that may not understand what labor percentages are, which may be the reason they're not looking at it in the first place.
There you go.
For your percent of revenue, you want to break that down, and for easy, one little KPI is we want to be 22% less if you're running a service business.
For your field labor.
For your field labor. So if they're building out $1,000, we want to be 22% of that. So, looking at that and controlling that and seeing where it's come out, and there's different KPIs for different departments if you're departmentalized.
So there's mechanics on how to properly classify that to start with. That's why people get intimidated. So we'll kind of teach that, and then go back and know if it's accurately in the books proper. Then we can analyze it and say, hey, maybe we pay too much overtime this week. I mean, you don't know if it's too much labor or not. And so that's a very specific one that people can control.
Great. Well, let's keep with the cost theme. So, Maureen, what's the long-term cost of ignoring imposter syndrome?
Well, it's a great question, and I have a lot of thoughts.
I do too, actually. I'm like, all of them are like.
Okay, imposter syndrome hits at two levels. It hits the person that struggles with imposter syndrome, right? So in the short term, you feel timid. What does that mean for long term? You're missing out on promotions, other opportunities, your background that could very well change the course of the organization. We don't think big enough in terms of what we possess and what we can offer. So on one level, it hits the individual. And in that individual's experience, aside from the fear, it can progress to things like anxiety, loss of interest in the job, what they call quiet quitting, or what's another buzzword that came out recently, presenteeism, which is where you show up for work even though you feel like you're so sick that you just have to show up because nobody else can do it. And if I don't show up, the company will fall apart. A symptom of imposter syndrome. So it affects the person on that individual level, but from a corporate perspective, from the organizational perspective, the problem is leaders don't always recognize imposter syndrome in their team because their team that looks like a rock star. So they think that's not my problem child. I have to put my attention elsewhere. They don't realize that non-problem child is dying 1,000 deaths inside, and it could cause these bottom line issues. Like you do have quick turnover, you do have lost productivity, you have people creating conflict, you have people not stepping up or speaking up to correct something that's gone wrong or to offer expertise. So at a personal level and an organizational level, the impact is huge. It could translate into higher medical costs, less market share. In the service world, you put a crew out there that's like not confident in what they're doing, you're going to have an angry customer. Now, before we started here, I was telling you guys, this is my home office. I've got a house full of contractors right now because I'm renovating my whole second floor. Been thrilled beyond belief with them because I watch them from the imposter syndrome perspective. They know what they're doing. They do what they say they're going to do. They communicate well. They show up on time. They clean up after themselves. The price was right. Great communication. If there's a flaw in any of that, your company suffers. And it could very well just come down to how an individual feels about whether they are qualified and smart enough to speak up, stand out.
Great. That's so true. Eric, Maureen just gave us some chaos. So why don't you tell us one thing a contractor can do to start leading through chaos?
Well, I'll tell you, developing your people. We'll tie this in with costs. So we were just talking about costs. It costs to develop people. It costs a lot more to fix the mistakes of people who don't think and act like leaders. And so we have to get very excited about developing our greatest asset, our people, because it is always less expensive to plant leadership seeds in people, the traits, the principles of leadership, than try and fix their mistakes or recover from losing a client or even a team member. And retention is so important. It is so expensive to lose people that we've trained. And it could be something minor. Maybe we didn't recognize them. Maybe the engagement wasn't there. Maybe communication wasn't where it was. When we invest the time to build people as leaders at all levels, then we'll actually increase retention, we'll increase morale, we'll increase our efficiencies and effectiveness. So it makes us more profitable and it makes us more powerful as an organization to have a team of leaders, not just a group of employees.
So my next question for you, and I think you kind of answered it, but you might want to be able to expand on it. How can leaders build empowering cultures? And I think that was what you just said is the first step, but there's obviously other steps to building those empowering cultures.
Yeah, the culture is so important. The culture is who we are. It's what we do per se. So we all have competition out there, and that's what we do. That's our industry. But who we are, that creates an identity, and that is in our culture. That culture is very much a feeling. It's in the Marine Corps. Our culture was called. We actually named it. It was so important. Esprit de Corps, the spirit of the Corps. And so what they're saying there is it's how it feels to be in the Marine Corps. Leaders need to take a really close look at how does it feel to be in our organization? Is it empowering and unifying, or is there some frustrations and stress? And usually you have a combo of both of those. The biggest indicators of having your culture and the way people feel is how much they embody your mission, your vision, your core values. So what's very interesting is most organizations have a mission statement or a vision statement or core values. Most of their people, including their leaders, don't know it. So it's very hard to, it's like, is it important to hit mission? Yes. What's your mission statement? I don't know. So there are some very small tweaks that I will share at the expo on how to create major impacts by just understanding and having situational awareness of our culture, which is our identity, how we feel, mission, vision, core values, our brand promises, our mottos, our tagline. So little things like that, and people start to get fully engaged. And this is where we can get excited about leadership development because it empowers our people.
It's so true. And I think what a lot of people don't realize or don't understand that I told Maureen earlier, my background is we own a family-owned remodeling company here in the DFW area. And I remember one of the biggest impacts that someone told me was, you owe it to everyone to make a profit. You owe it to yourself because you're putting yourself out there. You owe it to your employees so they have somewhere to come back to work every day. And you owe it to your customers so that you're there for them when they need you the next time around. So Kim Buford, can you guys share a quick story of a client who's hit the jackpot by getting serious about their numbers and understanding that that they're in this to make money for everyone involved?
Oh, perfect timing. I was kind of going on a thought train with the culture, but we just got back from an on-site visit for 2 days with a Service Nation member. And they have been part of the Alliance program for probably 2 years. And we have so enjoyed them because they are implementers. They've heard something, they're going to take it back home and they're going to implement it. The beautiful part is we got to see it live. We got to see their people adjust to their changes. We got to see them sit down one-on-one and say, okay, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? We went over particular numbers with the people that it affected their job. And what was wonderful is they were all open to it because their leaders have brought in and said, we all want to make a change in our company and be profitable. They see that they can do their part of the job based on their revenue goals and how it's going to help them individually and for the company. And we got a compliment when we left. We got an email that said, our people can't wait for you to come back. And we were so happy about that because that's intimidating when you bring someone else in outside of your company. So it was perfect timing for us. And I think what we did make a huge difference because of the leaders they were and what they want to share with their company.
Yep.
For those who may not understand or may be new to Service Nation, let me explain what Kim just said. We are a membership-based company, and we have different levels of membership. And our Alliance level membership is one of our longest running, but it's our highest level of membership. So it has a lot of networking, a lot of information, a lot of coaching, a lot of education that's included in it. I'm going to check to see if there's any questions in the chat. For those of you out there listening, I am monitoring it now because now I'm just checking. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw that in the chat and I'll share that. We'll get those questions answered for you guys. In the meantime, let's see what other question I have. So this one's for you, Maureen. How about what is a strategy attendees can use to immediately start silencing that imposter voice? You know what, and that can also happen when you're thinking about going to a trade show or an education show, right? Do I belong there? Am I smart enough to be there? Should I talk to the people there? Like that, those are all things that people take into consideration where they're going to an event where there's other people in their same industry. Like you said, are they smarter than me? Do they have better marketing than me? Like, so what is one thing that people can do to start silencing that already?
I think the first thing is to truly understand what imposter syndrome is. It's become such an umbrella blanket label for sometimes normal self-doubt. But it's not just that. It's not just normal self-doubt, like, oh, I'm not really sure how to do this. It is not a lack of self-confidence. It is not a self-esteem problem. It is a thought process problem. And it's a thought process problem because we refuse to look at the data that says you're okay and believe it. We don't believe it. So we engage in these coping strategies and these other symptoms that make us feel better and also hide our what we think of as incompetencies. So understanding what it is, and there's probably about 10, anywhere between 8 and 10 symptoms or strategies that we use. One of them, for example, is frequent procrastinating. Another one is overworking. And sometimes you bounce back and forth between the two. And, sometimes you overwork and sometimes you procrastinate, sometimes in the same day on the same project. So, but people procrastinate and overwork in other areas. So what are the other symptoms? Sometimes it's the inability or let's see, that's not right. The unwillingness to ask for help. Because the thinking is, I'm smart, I should know how to do this. Instead of saying, I am smart, but that I don't know how to do, I need to go find somebody who does. I've learned that we enjoy the journey when we ask others to join the journey. And sometimes it means asking for help or giving work to somebody that they love, that they do well, that charges them up. It took me a long time to hire an assistant because I was that person that thought, I can juggle everything. I can throw all the balls up in the air. All the plates are spinning. I can do this. I'm smart. And I realized there's some aspects of my job that I loathe. I can do it, but I loathe it. And then I found an assistant who's like, I'm on it. I love it. Oh. So in the moment, or the one strategy I would say is to truly understand what imposter syndrome is. There's also a narrative out there in the world that says imposter syndrome is your superpower. No, I don't believe it. That's not the superpower I want to live with. The constant anxiety, the internal tension, always having to prove myself. It's not your superpower. It is a symptom that you can alleviate. It is a sign that you're doing the right things. It speaks the loudest in times of change and transition. And that change can be anything. It could be changing careers, jobs, levels within a company. It could simply be, in the service world, today's Tuesday, tomorrow's Wednesday. It could be a day-to-day change because things are so unscripted and unpredictable, especially when your clients are the general population, because, people are a little unpredictable. So it's normal and natural to feel that uncertainty, that self-doubt, but it doesn't mean you have to live there, and it doesn't mean that you are an imposter. There are ways to overcome it.
Can you tell us a little more about how working at NASA impacted your relationship with your confidence?
Oh my gosh, I loved working at NASA. Truly, it was an epic experience. It was my dream to be an engineer. When I was a little girl, I knew from the time I was 7 or 8, I grew up in New York City, and my dad was one of the designers of the World Trade Center. So I remember blueprints of the complex when I was very young. So I wanted to be an engineer. When I got to college, I had some summer internships with the Air Force. So that's where I fell in love with jet engines, and then got the job at the Lewis Research Center in Cleveland in the propulsion systems lab, which was a dream come true. It's a jet engine test facility. Now, walking into the job day one, and I tell this story as my opening story in my keynote, which I'm not going to give it away. I did feel completely in over my head. NASA, for one thing, is where all the rocket scientists, the real smart people are, right? I was hired back in the 80s when NASA was on their mission was to make it look like America, and quite frankly, they needed more women. So I was one of a few in a sea of men, and it was in an area of technology that I wasn't familiar with. I knew the basics coming out of college, but the stuff we were doing, the research we were conducting, was crazy stuff. It was cutting edge. Now gosh, 40 years later, it's kind of ho-hum. But back then, wow, it was so exciting. So there were many reasons that contributed to me feeling like an imposter. I didn't know what it was at the time. It was years later that I learned about imposter syndrome, and it's become my flagship topic. A lot of speakers mention it. I deep dive into it. But yeah, living with that fear every day, it drove me to work harder, sometimes too hard. But it also helped me reach a level of success and I don't want to say notoriety because that's negative. Celebrity, I guess, within the agency. I was one of the only a few women in management. So I loved it. It was a great experience in spite of me feeling like I didn't fit.
Thank you for sharing that. That's exciting. I don't think there's anything not NASA's ho-hum ever, though. Like in my mind, I don't feel like that.
Oh no, we had our share of ho-hum days. Absolutely. We had our share of, all right, hit the data record button, boom, okay, let's do it again, boom. I mean, it's like hours on end just hitting buttons to record data. There was a lot of snoozing.
Thank you. Eric, can you, or would you like to share how your personal story has shaped your leadership?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, for me, my personal story, you wonder how you're going to utilize leadership in the personal sector. But what I'll share is that management techniques should probably stay at work when you manage things like your inventory and budgets, things like that. You don't necessarily need to bring that stuff home. But the beauty of leadership development is it can go home with you. If leadership is the people side of our business and we're teaching people how to look after the welfare of others, you can do that on the home front. I always challenge leaders to go home and manage their spouse and see how that goes. But we can be a leader on the home front. In fact, we could be a better leader in our communities as well. But personally, I learned a lot of tactics and traits and principles of leadership in the Marine Corps, and I utilized the appropriate ones in the business sector since 1991. But from the personal standpoint, I remember when Gina was diagnosed with cancer for the first time, and I became a caregiver. So very much in imposter syndrome there. They're teaching you medical techniques. I had to give her 2 shots in the legs every night, clean the tube that stuck out of her chest, the Hickman line, clean the exit and flush it with saline. I definitely was an imposter. I was not in the medical field, but all of these things have been transferred to me so quickly. And I really feel that it was my development as a leader that allowed me to see things differently. Yes, I had to manage some things. I had to manage the medication, manage the treatments, manage her doctor's appointments, manage some stuff. But I had the opportunity to be a leader in her life, coach and guide and mentor and keep her positive and optimistic. And sometimes when chaos hits, there's personal challenges also. The goal setting side kicks in where we set goals in the present, but we accomplish them in the future. So some of the things that I learned were, as leaders, we should be forward thinking. And I learned that as a caregiver, that when they're dealing with the chaos in their personal life, sometimes it's helpful to set a goal, but we often don't bring goal setting up during chaos. We're like, let's just get through this. But it's the goal setting process that helps us get through it, because again, I could talk to Gina about goals she had right now, but taking steps toward them, that was future thinking. And sometimes it was enough to just get her to see beyond the cancers. And, she even passed away of cardiac arrest while I was doing CPR on her, and they brought her back after the 3rd hit with the defibrillator. So the 4 battles of cancer turned into cardiac arrest and death, but she's still with us now, and we still set goals. And so, yeah, I would say that if I had not been developed as a leader, I don't know how I would have handled stress and challenges and chaos. So I'm eternally grateful for leadership development, because I use it in my personal life every day.
Well, that's impactful. Thank you for sharing that with us. Do you, Kim and Buford, as I don't even know if this is on my thing, but I'm going to ask because I know y'all so well and I've lived the life. Since we're talking about personal life a little bit, can you talk about how working as a husband and wife team has, like in the company and as well as now, how you can bring that knowledge to the people who will be attending too? Because there's a lot of us in the industry who run companies with our spouses.
Go ahead.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
See, that was a very good start, Buford. I'm very proud.
Well, our life is business. We kind of met when we were both in that wholesale industry. So we had a passion for the industry. And then when he wanted to open up his own business, we both made that decision. It not necessarily that I got drug in, but a lot of people do get drug in based on the male that decided he had his, vision and he needed help. But I think we knew right away, we respect our position in the company. You kind of have to stay in your lane. The other thing is, if you're having any kind of disagreement, I think we only did that in public one time as far as in the company, and realized immediately, hey, that needs to be either behind our closed doors or taking it home. You have to work as a team so people they know who to go to.
Mhm.
And they know that we're on the same plan. We would share that plan together and bring people along with that. And I say the only other personal thing I would say, because you bring a lot home, like Eric said, what do you bring home and what do you don't bring home? We weren't together all day long, but we were in the business. So at night, we might want to recap. So we came up with a code word that finally said, look, when that code word is said, all business stops. No matter what, no matter how important the subject was. And it was a game changer to remember we had a personal relationship and it's not just 100% business.
She would wear me
Dan
out.
and I had no work zones. Like we were not allowed to talk about work in the bedroom, and we weren't allowed to talk about work. We had a lake house at the time, and we weren't allowed to talk about work at that. So we had like safe zones where there was no work talk allowed.
Yeah.
So we have about 15 minutes. I don't see that we have any questions. So instead of me asking you guys a question, because I don't want to miss something that you might want to share that's not there. Let's go around, and I'll start with Maureen because that's yours on my screen next. Share something that you want to share that I haven't asked, or that you think is a major takeaway that you're going to be delivering without giving too much away for us in Vegas.
Sure. One of the points that I drive home in my presentations is essentially recognizing what it is that you bring to the table. And, Carol, you said, what does it feel when we first started this today? You said something about, how do you feel about coming to an event? I'm paraphrasing. Coming to an event, oh, that person is more successful or whatever. We do that all the time. We walk into a room. Well, before we walk into the room, we can kind of do a little bit of centering on ourselves and say, okay, I've got this. I deserve to be here. I have a good expectation for this event. Let's say the conference. And then you walk into the conference and you look around, you're like, oh, look, he's smarter. She's wealthier. He's cuter. Everybody here is more than I am. And you shrink back. And it happens all the time. Not just professionally, but we're going to be talking about it professionally. Imposter syndrome tends to strike most in that professional area. So what do you do about it? Well, it comes down to taking inventory on not just your technical skills. I know the service industry is filled with people that know their stuff. And I know it's a tough industry to keep on top of because stuff's always changing. There's advancements, new products, new techniques, blah, on and on and on. It's hard to keep up with that, but if you're teachable and coachable, you'll figure it out. So we tend to lean a lot on our technical skills, but we undervalue things like, am I teachable? Am I coachable? We undervalue our personal qualities, our character qualities. Those are the things that will carry you through that time of transition and change. There is no way you're going to know everything at any given time. There's no way we should know everything, because as far as I know, there's only one being who does, and I'm not him. But we tend to put so much pressure on ourselves to know everything and have the capacity to do everything, and we can't. So we think that, I'm not smart enough. I don't have enough experience, or I'm new in the industry, or new to this product line, or whatever it is. But look at your character traits. Are you teachable, coachable, optimistic, flexible, creative, curious? Do you get along well with others? Are you lighthearted? Are you diligent? Are you responsible, dependable? All those things that we far too often undervalue. Now, I can look at all of you folks, and even hearing all of the past experience and the qualifications, it is so easy for me to say, I'm not part of the industry, so I don't belong here. I was not in the military. I don't belong here. I don't know anybody in my immediate family that had cancer that I had a front row seat to. I don't belong here. But then I have to sit back and think, well, wait a second. That's their story, not mine. My story is different. I can't do what you do. You can't do what I do. And that's a beautiful thing. So
that's when we come together and learn from each other.
We need to value who we are, what we have, what we've experienced, and go forth and be great in spite with all of that.
All right. Thank you. Eric, do you have something, a final thought that you want to share?
Yeah, I would say that leadership is really about making progress, not being perfect. And we have the opportunity to just get better every day. One of the things that I share is most people in their industry, most leaders speak their industry. They speak the products, the services, the technology. They speak their industry fluently, but they don't often have the leadership words. They don't speak leadership, the traits, the principles, the tactics. We sometimes speak in a way that pushes people away instead of bringing people together. Our communication can be very magnetic. It can propel people or it can attract people. And oftentimes leaders say words that they don't intend to be repelling, but it is. Like we refer to people as employees, even though nobody ever said, I want to be an employee when I grow up. So, there's slight shifts like this is my team member. So I feel that speaking like a leader is one of the first parts. And once people understand how, then they can fall in love with the how. But it's just about getting better. It's about self-reflection and self-improvement, not about trying to be perfect. So I will touch down on communication, which most people rank as a 10 out of 10 on importance, but then they don't train on communication specifically from a leadership perspective. So we're going to give them some of that during my session, really teaching how to speak and communicate as a leader.
In the last year, both of my grown children got married, and we have a family-run business, so we've started taking family counseling. I tell them about this all the time, and it blows my mind that I have been with my husband since I was 17 years old, and we still have to work on how we communicate every single day.
It's the one thing we own as leaders. The mission statement is the companies, the products, the services, the equipment. It belongs to the company, unless you own the company. But for most people, communication is what we own, and we communicate, we transfer information, but we don't often communicate intentionally to empower people. And once we shift that up, most leaders give empowerment a 10 out of 10. Like, how important is it? We should show up every day and empower people. And I said, where do you have that scheduled in your daily schedule? They don't. And a lot of it is they just don't know some of the simple words, like I believe in you. I want to encourage you. I want to challenge you. I appreciate you. They just lack some of the dialogue, and that's what we'll help with. We're going to give them some of the powerful dialogue so that when people hear them, they hear a leader, which is very exciting stuff.
I'm so excited to hear you guys. Okay, Kim and Buford, what's your final takeaway?
Well, I want to tell everybody, don't be intimidated. Anybody in any position in the company can come to this class. It'll just empower you as an owner for sure. But if you're in another position, you can understand why the owners are asking the questions they do and help them reach their goals. We're going to make it fun. It's because people don't want to talk about their numbers. I think the biggest thing is Buford always did say he was intimidated by them thinking I had it handled. But as an owner, his life changed. Made it more fun. So if you have data, bring it. We'll share your numbers, ask questions, learn processes and procedures from other companies that have been successful. And
I just want everybody to not do what I did and really come and learn. We'll make fun. I'm sure she'll make fun of me and some of the silly stuff that I did. And, we just want you to understand them and understand the importance of 90% of the decisions you make need to be based on those numbers that you're not looking at for you to be successful. You don't have to look at them, but I don't know very many companies in Service Nation that are successful that don't look at their numbers. And I love the leaders. I love all three of these, and I can't go because I'm going to be working, but if I was a husband and wife combo, I would definitely try to split up. If like for me, I ran production, and she did the books. I wouldn't come to our class personally. If my wife could take care of it, I would go to the leadership or the imposter. I think they're great subjects, and I've been through all of them, and I've failed miserably. Felt like I was an imposter. So I think there's great lessons in any one of these that you want to go to. And we just look forward to seeing everybody and having a great time in our class.
I remember the first trade show Dan and I went to, the first remodeling show. It was, we could barely afford to be there, right? Like we had to have the parents take care of the kids, and we were like, what's the cheapest airfare? And they were like, okay, we got to make the most of this. So we divided and conquered, and we got back to our hotel room. And we're like, oh my God, we're doing everything wrong, and so it really does make a huge difference to come and be around those people. Now we go to the International Builder Show every year with our grown kids, and we're all like, what's our one takeaway? What's one thing that we can do, as opposed to all 52 things that we thought we needed to do after that first trade show. So we do want everyone to know that they're welcome here, and that this is a place for you to come and grow and to meet people and to rocket your business. So make sure that you guys register at serviceworldexpo.com. The pre-seminar sessions that these guys are running is a different, it's in the same registration, so you need to make sure you register for it. It's not like the overall registration. It is a special registration within there. If you register before June 30th, all the contractors will receive one free high roller ticket for each registration you complete. You can also book your room, purchase an expo booth if you're a vendor, and get more information in general sessions. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email is clongacre@servicenation.com, and I may not know the answer, but I know a lot of people, and I can get you some answers.
Yeah, that high roller thing, that's well worth the whole price of admission. That's really cool. It's that gigantic
Twice. It's fun.
moving Ferris wheel type thing.
And if you haven't been to one of our shows, we feed you all day, and then we have parties and networking and lots of opportunity for fun, because that's why I still work here. Everyone who knows me knows that I'm all about the fun part. Thank you guys all for being here. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you in person in Vegas.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be awesome.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye, guys.